Well, the Athletics Roadshow continues at Mike's Bar and Grill in Berea with Brandon Long from our men's volleyball program. Fresh off a big weekend, a couple of match wins over Elmira and Teal. Congratulations on a big weekend, and thanks for joining us.
Yeah, it was awesome this past weekend, especially sweeping both teams. I mean, the one on Saturday, that's the first time we've swept a team in program history, and then to follow it right up on Sunday was awesome.
Let's talk a little bit about the program side before we dive into this past weekend or the specifics of the season. We had a chance to talk with your head coach last week, and I mean, given what everybody has been through with COVID and all the challenges around, trying to stay healthy, get games scheduled, not know if they're going to happen sometimes because they fall apart.
Yeah.
Building a program during a pandemic. I mean, my gosh, you want to talk about trying to do things with your hands tied behind your back. And yet you guys are finding ways to be successful, and I know you're feeling good about the weekend. Give us a 10,000-foot view from a player's perspective at what life is like right now within the BW program.
Sure. So, all of us are pretty tough guys. I mean, if you think about it, the first class that Mars brought in were the seniors that didn't get their senior season. So we've been used to this for 3 years now, and we just take it as it comes. I mean, we're here to play volleyball. Sometimes it doesn't work out our way, but if a game's canceled or a match is canceled, that's another practice that we can still get better. So we're just trying to find the optimistic and the positive side of everything, and we just keep rolling.
How do you relish being one of the guys on the team that's trying to set that tone and keep guys, with a positive mindset, knowing that things are certainly normalizing, but even, this past weekend you had 3 matches scheduled and one of them fell apart?
It can be a little tough at times. Obviously guys are going to get down from time to time, but what's nice about us is we're like a brotherhood, and we always tell each other that all the time. So when someone gets down, there's 5 or 6 guys coming to help that one person. Whenever someone's feeling like that, they just talk to one of us, and we figure it out from there.
Is that a natural role for you to be filling, or is this something that you feel like you've kind of had to grow your way into?
A little bit of both. With Mars's guidance, he helps us, through these leadership classes that he puts us in. Professor Allen actually has an athlete-specific leadership class. So a couple of us did that last year. A couple more are doing it this year. And then just experience from high school up until now just helps.
So obviously, Baldwin Wallace is not a school in your backyard, and while there's an awful lot of the student population that are Northeast Ohio natives, I don't think the Yellow Jackets get too many student athletes from your neck of the woods. Give us an idea what the recruiting process was like, what attracted you to campus, and maybe how your experience has measured up to the expectations you had.
Sure. So I'll be completely honest with you. I had no idea what Baldwin Wallace was when I first heard of it. So I was looking at, other schools like Loras in Iowa, a couple of D2 schools in Virginia, and then Mars emailed me out of the blue after a club tournament, and I was like, I'd never heard, what is Baldwin Wallace? But my stepmom's family is actually from here.
Great.
And so my stepmom was like, oh, Baldwin Wallace, that's an awesome school. And so then we came and visited that family, and we talked about it. And I came on a visit, found the location, 20 minutes away from Cleveland, especially with my major. I'm a sport management major. So you've got 3 major sports teams right downtown. I actually work at the Browns training facility right now. I mean, as a sophomore. I'm 19 years old. I'm working for an NFL team. So it's pretty sweet. Our sport management program, just in general at BW, is awesome with Campese and Tony Dick going to the Super Bowl, Kentucky Derby, college football playoffs every year. So, just from the academic standpoint, I was like, hell yeah, I want to go to this place. This is awesome.
I have always enjoyed that program here, and we had Professor Campese on some point toward the latter portion of the fall semester. And I think it's one of the great selling points for students, that are looking for careers in sports, and not even necessarily on the media side, but in the business side,
right,
or in the operations side. I mean, there's so many different angles to working, in that industry, and I just think it's such a great program here. Mm-hmm. Before I guess we jump back to the athletic side, since you brought up the academics part, I understand you're also pursuing a finance track.
Not anymore.
Not anymore?
I took a finance class last year. I was like, yeah, this isn't for me.
Well, and sometimes that's the beauty of going to a smaller school, right? You figure out, hey, I'm early enough on as an underclassman. You take a few things, and sometimes it's good to swing and miss because you know what you don't like just as much as what you like. So what do you want to do with the sport management degree then?
I'd like to work in the front office of an NFL team. I mean, I know that's a pretty broad thing to say.
Okay.
I haven't really figured out exactly what yet. I'm a marketing minor now, so maybe something in that field. Being a GM would be pretty cool, but I don't know anything about football, so.
Got a long way to go then. Well, that's okay. It's always good to start somewhere, and working on the basically on the other side of campus with the Browns is a great spot.
Yeah.
Great spot. Hey, talk to us about the beginning of the season. I mean, you guys played some wicked good teams right out of the chute. And I think Kyle was telling us last week, look, we figured out pretty quickly what the measuring stick is. Mm-hmm. You know, played some nationally ranked teams where we want to be, and obviously fell short. But in fairly short time, you turn around and put two good matches, together this past weekend. How did you see the performances from this weekend kind of mirror what you guys wanted to work on from that opening weekend of
yeah, so, playing nationally ranked teams that are number 3 and number 12 in the nation, I mean, they're good, obviously. That's why they're ranked that high. So seeing that, like you said, is our standard of what we want to be at, and just actually experiencing that for the first time, because last year we only played in conference, and the best team in the conference was Fontbonne, and they're ranked, I think, number 15 this year. So going into last year when we played them, we were like, holy cow, these guys are really good. But after playing these other ranked teams this year, we're like, okay, Fontbonne's, they're there, they're good, but, they're not where we want to be. We need to look beyond them and, eventually make it to the national tournament. Change
your perspective a little bit.
Yeah.
I realize men's volleyball at the college level is kind of a tight-knit community. There's not necessarily the same breakdown between Divisions 1, 2, and 3 the way there are in a lot of other sports. Mm-hmm. Division 1 has a lot of schools that are big power Division 1 programs, Ohio State, Penn State, USC, UCLA. They also have a number of much smaller schools that don't compete in Division 1 and a lot of other sports. Division 3 has some maybe more traditional Division 3 athletics programs that compete there. And in a conversation with Coach Mars last week, we were talking about basically the difference between the two is the ability to play even higher above the net at the D1 level, and occasionally the game is a little bit faster. Mm-hmm. How about from a player's perspective? When you watch the Ohio States, when you watch UC Santa Barbara or Long Beach State, some of the premier programs nationally, when you watch them compete, and then when you play, when you compete against other teams, where do you see the biggest differences?
Well, the short answer, height. I mean, those guys are 6'8", 6'9". We're 6'2", 6'3" max. But those guys have they're freak athletes. I mean, they were almost bred for volleyball.
Sure.
And, there really isn't that much difference besides physicality. With that physicality, the game becomes faster at the D1 level. But in terms of the game itself, we're doing pretty much the same things that they are, just maybe a little bit slower. And that's not necessarily a bad thing because, there are other things we can improve our game on. Having a little bit of a slower game, we're able to play defense a little bit better than maybe at the D1 level. Obviously, not to, bash on those guys because
sure,
they could take me any day. But just focusing on different parts of the game that you might not see at the D1 level.
What part, as a team, what part of the game do you guys feel you're working hardest on right now, and you want to see, something here in the next couple of weeks, feel like you're taking steps forward?
Definitely transition from defense. So if they swing at us and we dig a ball, swinging right back at them. We just had a film session before this actually and talked about we're actually outscoring opponents by doing that. We just got to execute a little bit better and turning these, 25 to 20 set wins into 25-15 wins. I mean, it's just little things like that can just open up everything.
Looking forward to playing in front of bigger crowds, I would assume, here at home sometime soon, too.
Oh, yeah.
I can imagine. Well, why don't we wrap maybe with something about your family and just the support you've had along the way as they've sacrificed for you. You mentioned all the club volleyball you played and what you did in high school. And I guess I'm just interested in their role in, your getting to this point.
Yeah, my parents played a huge role. To be honest with you, it's kind of a sad story. But looking back on it, it's a little funny. I had a club coach who told me I was the worst volleyball player he'd ever seen. And, looking back on it, it's like, who are you? This was like a 60-year-old dude. It's like, last time you played volleyball, you could only score on a serve. So it's like, who are you to tell me that? But it almost made me quit because I believed them. But my parents were like, you got to stick it out. Don't listen to this guy. And then less than 6 months later, I committed at BW. So they played a huge role, especially my dad. He's given up so much time to go to all my games, drive me and my friends to early morning practices, late night practices, tournaments 45 minutes away or in St. Louis. It's just, my family's been awesome and real supportive of everything.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Never underestimate the power of having a family that's backing you in what you're doing.
Yeah.
Very cool. Brandon, we've enjoyed visiting with you. Wish you all the best, man. I hope it's a really long, fun season for you with a championship waiting at the end. And,
yeah, that'd be awesome.
No matter what happens, look forward to seeing your growth as a competitor and as a student.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, Brandon Long from my men's volleyball program. When we come back, we'll talk with Kyle Long, his head coach, here on BWYellowJackets.com. All right, our road show continues at Mike's Bar and Grill in Berea with Kyle Mars, head coach of Yellow Jacket men's volleyball, who's got to be in a good mood because his team won twice this past weekend. It was a 2-win weekend in what could have been 3 matches, but one of them was canceled because of COVID. So an undefeated weekend for you guys. Congratulations.
Couple sweeps. Yeah, it was awesome. It was fun.
Yeah, and I have to imagine not just winning, but the fact that you win in straight sets. I think about the things that we talked about when we visited last week. Regardless of the level of competition, I know you started the year with some real heavyweight teams, but to come back and play really well and clean enough to get wins in straight sets has to feel really good.
Yeah, it was awesome, and I think what we're seeing is those heavyweight games against the ranked teams are paying off, right? So we go from a couple weekends ago playing some of the top teams in the nation, and then this weekend we swept a team that was coming from the best conference in the nation, who was really good. They had some big boys, and we handled them in 3. So that was a fantastic win for us. And yeah, I was just super excited about how we responded to us getting swept twice, flipping the script to the next weekend, and we get the sweeps. So it's good stuff.
And obviously the results were good, but what did you feel in practice this past week that kind of made you feel like, hey, it's moving in the right direction?
Yeah, we actually we just talked about this with our guys about a half hour ago. Our kind of mantra is it doesn't matter, get better, right? So, yes, we did get swept. Yes, we got handed to a couple weekends ago, but our guys have a mentality of if we want to meet our goals ultimately, our practice gym is what makes the most type of difference, right? And I think that they have that kind of mindset of when Monday comes, it's a reset button and we're getting back in the gym. We're going to look at what we have to get a lot better with, and we're going to just head forward. So,
take me back through the 2 matches one by one here this past weekend. Why don't we start with Elmira because you played them first. What stands out in your mind about that match?
Yeah, so we knew going into that match that they were going to be a tough serving team, and they had 3 guys on the pin who were 6'2" to 6'4" and just had some live arms. So we knew that those were the 3 guys that we had to stop. And from a game plan standpoint, our guys followed that really well, and we took care of it, right? On top of that, on our side of things, we knew we had to serve them tough and take them out of their offense, and we did that. So I can't say enough. I think the thing that almost shocked me a little bit was the rate at which we sided out was fantastic. It was close to 70%, and if you can side out at that rate, it's going to be tough to lose to anybody, right?
Absolutely.
So yeah, I was super proud of how we handled that against a team that's coming from a great conference again, So
it feels like Nick had a particularly solid match. He swung 545, and obviously a double-digit kill performance is nice, but when you combine that with so few attack errors, you feel like you got a guy who's really starting to get in good rhythm.
Yeah, we had a good matchup with him on their setter, who was kind of a smaller guy that was was putting up a weaker block, and he was doing what he wanted to out there. And Nick is the type of guy where he doesn't get caught up in the environment that he is in. He plays in the moment, and that is his personality too. So he was just on fire, and he was loving it. He was having fun, and just kept moving on. He had a great game. The good thing about him too in that match was like he was one of the smaller pins on the whole court. So he was finding ways to score off the block. He was passing well, and he found a way to stand out as somebody who is smaller in stature. So, yeah, he had a great game, man. It was awesome.
Give us an idea where Michael Beard's game is at right now.
Yeah, Beard is at the point where he knows that in any given match, he's one of the better pin hitters. Where he is at right now is he wants to hammer everything. And at some points when he's on, it's impressive. His serve is on. I mean, he's smoking the ball. There are some days, though, where teams are going to key on him, and he's got a couple of blockers up, and he has to find a way to what we call get a hitter's toolbox of we don't have to hammer every single swing. Sometimes you can score off the block. Sometimes you can tip and roll to certain spots to score as well. So that's where we're kind of developing him a little bit is what are more ways to score without just hammering the ball. Right now, too, I would say 100% he's one of the best servers in our conference. So when he gets on a roll, I mean, he gets us a nice gap that we can kind of play with. So, yeah, he's a fun kid coach. And his personality, too, he's the type of guy where he doesn't talk much. He just puts his head down and works, So that's been pretty enjoyable.
I want to flip the script now to the teal contest and spotlight in particular Michael Devlin, who felt like he was okay against Elmira, but really performed at a better level on Sunday.
Yeah, Devlin has been a really nice add to this team. I was telling somebody on Sunday, he adds a layer to our offense where coming from last year, we have 4 to 5 guys now on the court that you have to worry about, right? And what that does is that spreads out the block a lot. So if you're putting a solo block on Dev, you better watch out because the kid's got a hammer. And what he's doing right now is fantastic. He's starting to get a little bit of a type of rhythm from the service line too. So that's been great to see. But yeah, right now we're just trying to get him used to the speed of the game and maybe becoming a better blocker as well. But yeah, that kid is going to be special, and I'm super excited to see his growth.
Obviously, a 3-set win against Teal, and it felt like, in both Saturday and Sunday, there wasn't a huge margin of victory in any of the sets. So it kind of felt like you're right in the teeth of competition and had to grind out a couple of those. I would imagine you probably feel like that's good early in the year to figure out, hey, what's it feel like to have to really work to win?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, right now what we're doing with this year is we're trying to put our guys in situations with all these matches against some ranked teams and some good competition where they have to really earn wins, right? And what you're seeing is these guys coming from last year, we were in some tight deuce sets that we lost, and it turned out ugly. This year, they've found out how to handle that, stay in the moment, and take a deep breath and turn some points, right? And that's what we're seeing. The next step for these guys is we have to figure out how to early on in a lot of these sets, we have to create gaps with our defense, getting some digs and getting some swings back. But yeah, it's been awesome to see. And what you're seeing is a bunch of sophomores and freshmen who are stuck in these tough matches and they're pulling them out. So in year 3 and year 4 and going forward, it's going to be valuable stuff that I'm super excited to see. So
Awesome. Yeah. Tell me a little bit about Brandon Long since we had him on the show tonight. Obviously, he's coming off of a nice weekend, but certainly seems like a pretty impressive young man.
Yeah, Brandon comes from a club where his head coach in high school was an All-American setter that I actually played against. So when I saw him playing his senior year of club, I was like, he's not the biggest athlete, right? He's not the biggest guy on the court. He's not the most flashy player, but he's smart. He was coached really well. And the best thing about him is he has a presence in those big moments where he's calm and cool and just understands how to run the offense at all steps of the game. So it's been great to have him, and right now we're a year and a half in, and he's starting to think on a higher plane. We're trying to talk to him about when you are running the offense, you want to play chess over checkers, and right now he's starting to figure that out of how to manipulate some blockers and stuff like that. So it's been awesome to see his growth. And the last thing I want to say about him that I could say about a bunch of our guys is he just really cares about getting better and where this program is headed in year 2. And that's something that you just can't coach, right?
That's pretty awesome. You're right. Having guys that are all bought in is a huge deal. Before we let you go, let's just preview real quick the upcoming weekend. You've got one more home match on Friday with Geneva to kind of wrap up this homestand, if you want to call it that.
Yep.
And then you'll be at Hiram on Saturday to play against the Terriers and against Eastern Mennonite. Your thoughts on what you got coming up here?
Yeah, Geneva is coming from the same conference as Teal. From what I've seen from them on the video, they have some big guys, a couple of dudes that are 6'7", and then they have a couple of seniors that have been around for a long time that have won a conference championship too. So that's going to be a great test again. Hiram is going to be fun because that's where I came from. Those guys that I coached graduated last year. They made the NCAA tournament, and the guys that I brought in my second year there are now in their last year. We played them a couple of weeks ago, and they handed it to us. And it was a good match. It was a great time to learn, too. So we're going to get a second crack at those guys, and it's going to be good to see them. Yeah, I think we have some good opportunities here in this next weekend, and I'm excited to see how they come off of a couple of wins now. So
it's been great to visit with you back-to-back weeks. I hope we see you soon, and hopefully when we talk again soon, it's because of a couple of big wins. Congratulations on a good weekend. Keep it going.
Thanks, Brandon.
All right, Cal Mars of our men's volleyball program. When we come back, we'll talk with head coach Sherry Harrer of the women's basketball team on the BW Athletics Roadshow.